Hi, I'm Cher, the Shadow Walker. Welcome to Strange and Weird Occurrences. And let's start with Nova Scotia. In Nova Scotia, in the St. Margaret's Bay area, at least 12 residents reported seeing at 11:15 p.m. a brilliant blue and white silent explosion over the water near St. Margaret's Bay. St. Margaret's Bay is absolutely beautiful. And the official response from the authorities was, and the meteorologists have attributed this to Boldy, a large meteor entering the atmosphere, coinciding with the arrival of the current ice storm. There was no radar return of a solar craft. And an animal mutilation in Inverness County on March 30th, a farmer reported the discovery of a young heifer found in a remote pasture near the base of Cape Breton Highlands, and it had a lack of blood and on the ground and a circular incision near the jaw. Reported it to the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. And the farmer said that there was no predators around it and that, it didn't match that of a coyote or a bear kill. And that is it for that area. Taking a look at New Brunswick, and I guess with the ice storm that went through, that's why the areas have been so quiet. So, Caledonia Glow on April 1st, local monitoring near Caledonia Mountains, one of your areas that I consider a frequency bridge, flagged a series of low frequent hums reported by two separate residents early this morning at 3:30 a.m. Two individuals, separate reports, and they said there was a steady vibrating hum accompanied by an orange U light that seemed to hover below the tree line before the ice storm intensified. And they shared it with the local community watch. So next I'm taking a look at Maine, and in the past 48 hours, there's been an increase in aerial phenomena reports and reports through direct animal mutilation with cauterization as well. So we'll start. There was a metallic disc event on March 31st, and it was near Bangor and Ellsworth. And it was one independent witness reported a metallic disc-shaped object traversing the sky at approximately 10:45 p.m. The blue flash connection, similar to St. Margaret's Bay in Nova Scotia, residents in Malchance and Le Buc reported high-altitude silent blue pulses at roughly 11:20 p.m. on March 31st. And that's 5+ independent witness reports to the local community group, and at least 2 calls were made to Hancock County Sheriff's Office. And in Arrowroot, I think it is, county. Gosh, I know I wrecked that one. On April 1st, a report surfaced early this morning from a woodlot owner near Pasqueak Isles regarding a deer carcass found with unusual structural damage. While not livestock, the owner described the carcass as missing jaw and tongue, with no visible blood on the surrounding snow, despite the fresh snowfall from the previous night. And he reported it to the Maine Warden Service, currently listed as a probe predator kill, bracket coyote, though the owner has questioned the lack of struggle marks or tracks leading to the body. And that is it for that area. There are so few incidents occurring right now because of the storms, I thought I'd combine this with spirits, and I'm specifically looking at poltergeists, demonic ghosts or spirits, any type of entity that would be haunting home, just a regular home. And so in doing that, I'm going to start with Newfoundland. And of March 31st at 1:15 a.m., this is over a 48-hour period, a private residence in Conception Bay, a mother and 2 adult children The family reported a localized pressure shift followed by the sighting of a tall, solid shadow figure moving from the kitchen to the bedroom. Unlike a standard ghost, this entity was described as being blacker than dark and caused electronics, in brackets, the telephone, the two cell phones that they had, and the television to systematically reboot. They reported it to the local paranormal researchers and the Ghost Watch community. And there seems to have been a spike in that area and ongoing peaks between 9 p.m., midnight, and March 31st at Battery in downtown St. John's. It says multiple residents, approximately 6 independent households, residents in the historic row houses, reported heavy furniture sliding inches across the floor, kitchen cabinets vibrating violently without corresponding systematic or wind events, and one report specifically mentioned a mirror shattering from inside out with no impact. Most reports were logged on community forums. One resident contacted St. John's Haunted Hike group and asked if the frequency in the area had shifted during the ice storm. So that's what they thought. So in the only case in Prince Edward Island in the last 48 hours is the West Point Lighthouse, the O'Leary area. And spring guests that have stayed there have reported seeing the original keeper of the lighthouse appearing in their room in the dead of night. And that's a notorious haunting. Everybody apparently down there knows for that. And they're also feeling an uptick and feeling watched in the Dunvegan Bridge area. So in Nova Scotia, in the last 48 hours, the mere mimic. On March 31st at 2:15 a.m., a private historic residence in Lunenburg, two homeowners, the residents report poltergeist-style events where all reflective surfaces in the primary bedroom, mirror table, screen window became cloudy or opaque. This was also followed by the sound of rhythmic knocking coming from the inside of the wardrobe. When they opened it, they reported a sudden localized drop in temperature and it smelled of ozone or wet earth. They reported it to the local paranormal investigators and the Halifax Paranormal Symposium. And it would be wonderful if you guys could take a look at this if you are, and if somebody could get back to me through email and tell me the positioning of the mirrors in the room, because that played into this. And there was an extraterrestrial on the blue. Oh, yes, we've seen the light on the shore in St. Margaret's Bay. And in the New Brunswick area for spirits, ghosts, entities, demonic possession, or poltergeists, on March 31st at 2:45 a.m., private residence near the Kingston Peninsula, it's a historic home. Two guests and a resident that lived there reported the sounds of chains and heavy banging, dragging coming from the basement level during the height of the storm. When investigated, they found a heavy wooden storage chest had been moved 3 feet from its original position. They also reported dense moving shadows that blocked the light of their flashlight before entering and disappearing into a corner. They reported it to the Paranormal Forum, Maritime Shadow Investigator. That's so. Next, we're taking a look at Maine. In Maine, in the last 48 hours, the Gardner shadow sighting on March 30th at 11:14 p.m. Residential neighborhood near Kennebec River, the Gardner. It says. Two residents, a married couple, reported a solid black mass that moved from their hallway into the child's bedroom. They described a sudden temperature drop and the sound of heavy door latch clicking shut on its own. No children were in the room at the time. And they reported it to the Maine ghost hunters. and an Augusta kitchen poltergeist on March 31st at 3:45 a.m. in the historic district of Augusta, and this is one primary homeowner. Witness was awoken by the sound of glass shattering. Upon entering the kitchen, they found several cabinet doors opened and a heavy ceramic bowl shattered in the center of the floor, far from the counter. The witness also noted a static-like pressure in the ears during the event. They reported it to the Maine Paranormal and to the local community board. In Lewiston, they had at April 1st at 2:10 a.m. in the morning, so this morning, in an apartment complex in Lewiston, three individual roommates, all three witnesses reported hearing a clear voice of one roommate calling out from the living room while that roommate was actually asleep in their bedroom. This was also followed by the sound of rhythmic knocks on the interior wall, three knocks in succession. And it was shared to the local paranormal investigation network online. And in Bucksport, reoccurring between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. on March 30th, March 31st, in a private residence in Bucksport, a family of four, multiple light rods captured on domestic security cameras, consistent with reports of disembodied footsteps on the second floor. The family reported the sensation of being watched by an entity they described as tall, thin, and shadow, standing in their doorways. And it was reported to the Penobscot River Monitoring Center. And that is it for Maine. Thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. And happy April 1st. Have a wonderful day.